going to quickly remove this. But hey, everybody, welcome to Open Source Friday. If you're not familiar with this stream, it's basically a stream that I do every Friday talking to open source maintainers or open source core contributors about their projects, just so we can get a chance to learn more about possible projects that we can contribute to and how we can support different maintainers. I see a comment here that's already questioning about the title. So, just so y'all know, in America right now, it is Black History Month. And what I wanted to do was highlight some Black maintainers in open source. I often bring on maintainers who are maybe white and male because that's the majority of like maintainers out there. But I was like, since it's Black History Month, let's go ahead and highlight some Black maintainers that may not get as much, acknowledgement in the industry. So who I have on today, we actually have two guests that we'll have. So first we'll have DeSean Carter for the first hour, and then after that we'll have another guest to talk about a project called Formidable JS. But I want DeSean to go ahead and introduce himself. Hey, DeSean.
Hi. First of all, thanks for having me. This is pretty exciting. You're famous, and I'm glad to finally be on your stream and be doing something together. I am a husband, father. I've got a bunch of kids. I live in the Kansas City area. I'm a struggling athlete. I volunteer, and I'm a Spring developer advocate at VMware Tanzu.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. That was a great intro, and I thought you were famous. So I'm excited to have DeSean on. Like, I've seen a lot of your work, and I'm like, I would love to connect with you. I think at KCDC, I saw you briefly, but didn't get to chat. So I'm excited to actually.
I'm not gonna let that happen this time. I hope
not
to see
this
you there again
right?
this year.
Yes. So I'm hoping to be at KCDC. I submitted a whole bunch of CFPs.
Awesome.
Cool. So let's get into your project. What is it? Tell people who are in the chat, what is it all about?
Well, I gotta confess, my project, it seems like, hey, it's kind of weird. It's more like a mod than it is like a core project, something I pulled out of my hat or pulled out of my head. It's more of a mod for something that fills a gap for something that's needed.
Yeah.
So I'll jump into presenting.
Yeah.
If you'll pull up my screen, sure. And I'll first talk about Buildpacks. So yeah, you can see my screen, but I'm gonna do this one. Buildpacks, cloud native Buildpacks. It's this idea that I've had this pain. I've lived through the pain of having Docker files for each of my applications. So for all of my apps that were going to be deployed to some container runtime, I had a Docker file, and the Docker file was 99% the exact same for each one. But when you have applications at scale, a change, hey, I need to change a version that I was using in these Docker files, having to do that for a dozen, 100 different apps meant I had to rebuild those images for all of those applications. And that was painful. And I didn't like that. I didn't like having that extra project, that extra Docker file piece that I was having to maintain on top of my application code.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'll jump into that. So this is what you might have: a Docker file, from some base image, do some things, but eventually you get some image that you can deploy to your Docker or your Kubernetes or other. With the Buildpack idea is the Buildpack can detect what's on the file system. So I'm not saying, hey, here's what I want you to do. I'm saying, hey, look at my file system, look at what my target, and determine what's there. So for a Java Buildpack, I might look for a Maven pom.xml or a Gradle build file. For a Python, I might look for a requirements.txt or other, or COBOL, right? But with the Buildpacks, I can put those Buildpacks into a builder. So let's say my organization has Java and Ruby and COBOL all going to production as images. Well, I can create one builder, and I can maintain one builder that's able to detect and build for each of those languages or other. And I can put them all into one builder.
Oh.
So that saves me a lot of headache. So if there's an update that I need for Java, a Java dependency version. I can update it once, and then everybody gets it.
Oh.
Everybody that's using that builder gets that update. So it
That
makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I seen your project and I was like, this is cool, but I don't really know what a build pack or a builder is.
Yeah.
So I like this diagram and your explanation because it makes sense why it needs to exist and like how it works.
Yeah, and these build packs are actually OCI images. They're Docker images, and they're just doing the work inside of an image. So
Yeah.
versus with a Docker file, typically I'm doing Docker file or Docker build from that Docker file. This is actually an image. So my platform, like my Cloud Foundry or my Kubernetes, could actually have some sort of builder implementation, and I can say, "Hey, Kubernetes environment, go ahead and build this for me."
Okay.
So it takes one step away from me as a developer and kind of puts it downstream in my supply chain onto my builders.
It's automating like that part for you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
People are asking already what project, so I'm gonna put the link right in the
Yeah.
I
So
can't type in the comments, y'all, but I put the link right there.
so I'll jump over. Here's my project, and I'll give it a little history here. I am a big fan of. For those of you that know, these are very, very hard to find. This is a Raspberry Pi. It's an ARM64 processor. I've got a lot of them around my house, 92 today to be truthful. And I'm going to have less of them before that number increases again. But I'm a big
Wait,
fan.
why do you have 92? I need to know.
See, and I've got 2 of them that are still yet unopened. I like. I have kids. I like to tinker. I like the hobby. I like to build things, and I've always liked Spring framework for Java. And now I'm a Spring developer advocate, and it's kind of worked out. There was a few years ago where I started hearing rumors about ARM64 and support for ARM64. I was always liking the Raspberry Pi stuff, but because I'm a Spring developer in Java, a lot of the projects were Python or other, and it just didn't jive. I was like, man, I wish I could do my Spring stuff on these little devices. And there's a really small device. Actually, I'll got one over here. There's a really small version of this device that's a Raspberry Pi 02W. And that has 4 cores. It's only got 512 megs of memory, but it's 64-bit ARM 64.
Yeah.
And the combination of what was happening in the Spring ecosystem around native compilation and GraalVM, combined with my passion for Raspberry Pis, kind of brought me here to this project. The Spring team came up with this plugin to create images. So in order to do a project, let's do this.
Oh, and wait, sorry to interrupt you. I just realized, what if people don't know what a Raspberry, I know what it is, and I was like going along with it, but then I was like, what if people don't exactly know what a Raspberry Pi is? I know you just showed it, but for folks who like never used it before, how would you describe it? Sorry.
Raspberry Pi is a single board computer. So it has connections for your monitor. If you're old like me, you remember like an Atari, you kind of plugged it in and you had all your stuff. But it's a single board computer. So I plug in power, I plug in a monitor, I plug in the keyboard to USB, monitor to HDMI, and I'm set. Everything else is on there. So there's no hard drive. It's got a SD card is the hard drive. You can attach others. You can do other things with it. But yeah, that's what it is. But it's ARM64. So where most of us are using x86 or AMD 64 architectures from our chipset, some of us might be using Apple Silicon, like an M1 or an M2.
Yeah.
And maybe you're in the cloud. Some of us are trying to save money in the cloud. And we've noticed that ARM64 architecture in the cloud is oftentimes cheaper. Like the same machine, like a 4-core or 24 gig 4-core machine running on x86 architecture might be a little bit more expensive than 4-core 24 gig machine running on ARM64.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we run into. And in my project, it kind of started off of this Maven plugin for Spring that allowed me to create an image just from the command line. I could do Spring Boot build image. get a Docker image, from the plugin, and it was great. But then for ARM64, it didn't work. There wasn't an upstream supported ARM64 version. So while I was away, while I was not working at VMware, I was still playing with that, and I liked that idea, and I had some hodgepodge ways of putting together this, using the plugin to build ARM64 images. But then a good friend now, Daniel Makusa, who worked on the Paketo project, worked at VMware. He created this kind of pattern for how to build an ARM64 version of this build pack.
Okay.
So I kind of adopted his strategy, and I was doing the steps. It was manual steps for a long time of how to do it. And he documented it really well. And I started pushing them out. So instead of just having the instructions, I was pushing out versions of this ARM64 version of the build.
Oh, okay. So he created the documentation for it.
Yes.
And you were like,
yeah.
rather than that, why don't you just have something that you can like install via the command line or whatever that goes through these like each step in the documentation, but you don't have to like manually type each part out.
Yeah. And what I was doing, you might be able to see, I was kind of maintaining and updating along the way, using his repository, because he started it to keep up with the issues and take care of things as we were going. But yeah, it was a time-intensive process. So as I kept on going, you can see it's kind of moved quite a bit. As I was going through this process, as a community evolves, as people start using it, when issues come up, it seems important to fix them. Yeah. So really my whole project, like I said, it's just a mod. All the guts of the project is really the automation. I made a script that does all the steps automatically. So instead of copying and pasting, it's actually grepping and replacing from the upstream. So it just grabs the upstream version of that's being released for x86, and it replaces it with an ARM64 version and doing all the analysis necessary to find the latest versions for what it needs.
Genius. I love it.
Yeah. So that's the project. Again, it's I just really wanted to be on your show, and I wanted to brag about this. If you are on Apple Silicon, then you kind of need this in order to deliver these native images for Apple. And I'd be happy to show a demo.
Yeah, let's do a demo. And that's what this show is for, to show off.
So I have the instructions. So if anybody wants to follow along, the instructions are here. And I just opened up issues because I was handling issues in Daniel Makusa's repository. I just opened up issues, and I just closed my first one earlier today. So I reached out and said, hey, I'm using Gradle. I didn't have the Gradle example out there, and now I do. So let's do the Gradle example. So we're going to do the quick start for Gradle. I'm going to copy this. Actually, I'll do this. I'll make sure, like, hey, Docker images. There should be. Oh, that's fine. And then I just did a copy and paste of the instruction that was on the README, and that gives me a project, a GitHub project, or a Spring project. It's using the Spring initializer, which I could do here at start.spring.io. It's just the command line version of going and creating a project. So I made it a little bit easier.
Oh.
So here, now I've got a project. So let's show it breaking. I'm on ARM64 here. Yeah. This is a Mac Studio. If I do Gradle W boot build image, this is going to break. And this is what happens. So if you're on ARM64, you're on M1 today, there's no upstream version. So this plugin, it uses a Paketo build pack, but there's not an upstream version for that build pack. So it's doing its thing. It says, hey, build pack, the build pack, that image, all it did was pull down an image. And then inside of that image, it says, oh, let me figure out what's going on in this project. Okay. And this is going to hang here in a minute, and I'll have to do a hard little cancel. But I just want to show, like, hey, here it's going to fail. And this is the problem. And this is why this project has a little community around it. Anybody that's using Spring and wanting to do native images on M1, they're probably using this repository. So I'm not just like creating the repository for them to go and use, I also pushed out like builder. Yeah, so I actually like push out the image. So it makes it pretty easy for them to adopt. So this is probably going to hang right about here. It's trying to do its thing, but in order to do its thing, because we're on Apple M1, it's trying to do the QEMU emulation.
Yeah.
So, hey, yeah, I can do this. I got an image that's x86, but I'm an ARM64 processor. So let me just do that QEMU emulation and it'll just hang here. So it'll hang here for hours if I let it. So
I love that you illustrated this part for me because I'm not a Java person. I'm JavaScript. And then like I haven't done much with Buildpacks and stuff like that. So this is just like I love that you illustrated it this way because it makes sense to me.
So the next step, this is what we just did. We built it. Now we're just going to add this to my build.gradle.
Okay.
I don't think it matters where I put it. I'm just going to put it at the bottom.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do the exact same thing. So what I said here was, hey, anytime that I run this boot build image task, I want to use this builder. Instead of the Paketo one that we got from upstream, I want to use this builder. And then I'm passing in a command, an environment variable that says, hey, I do want a native image when I do that. Because I can build these images as JVM running images or native images. And I can go back to that in a second.
Okay.
So this is right where we got stuck before. And it took us a minute to get here. We canceled it in a minute, and you can see that we're already past that.
Yeah.
So it was trying to do that emulation, and now we're already past that. So if you're ARM64 and you've been trying this to build native images, you're seeing the end goal here. But now this is still going to take a while. The native image processing that we're doing it's ahead of time processing. So for any compiled language, what we're doing is we're looking at where could this code possibly run. It's looking at every branch that this code could possibly run, and where it couldn't run, it throws it away. So it's optimizing, but at the end, instead of Java normally gets compiled to bytecode and ran on a JVM, a Java virtual machine. What we're doing here with GraalVM is saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and analyze all that. I'm going to throw away all the things I don't need. And instead of delivering bytecode, I'm going to deliver statically linked native binary code.
Oh, dang.
So the footprint that it's running in, the performance that it's going to deliver it's native to the architecture. So it's so much faster, smaller footprint, but not for every workload. So there's a trade-off here. So it's going to take a little while for it to compile. It's going to take a little while for it to analyze where the code can be used and where it's not. So I can have all those dependencies. One of those complaints that you'll hear about Java and Maven and Palms is like, hey, you're bringing all these dependencies for like one or two things. When we're doing this, when we're compiling to this native binary, we get rid of those.
Yeah.
So even what you're delivering is tiny.
I love that. Okay. So does that affect performance in the Java world? Okay.
Yes, it does. So what I should have done was show like, hey, how it starts up faster.
No. I think I was able to be like, okay, that's kind of sounds like in JavaScript, you have too many dependencies. It like puts a burden on the project and it goes a little bit slower. Yeah.
So now we're just getting rid of a lot. It's still going to take a while. Again, it's doing all of the analysis.
Yeah.
But at the end, when this is done, I've got an OCI image that I can run. Right? It's still generating that image, but it's from ARM64. So I can deliver that image, for example, to a Graviton VM in Amazon.
Ooh.
And I can get that fast startup performance. Or if I've got serverless workloads, it starts up faster, smaller footprint.
We have while we wait, there's some comments.
Yeah.
Xavier Manuel said, gives me homebrew vibes. Love it. And then Khalid said, so can it be better than the one in the cloud? I don't know the one in the cloud.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's done. It took 3 minutes and 9 seconds. But now I'm just going to go back to the documentation. I'm verifying the documentation I just pushed out. We just did our Gradle build or boot build image. So now let's run it. We have an image, and I'll show this. I'll go Docker images. and I'll show what it's pulled down. Remember, I deleted everything except for this one was still sitting there. It pulled down the run image, the jamming run image. These are the stack that it runs on. So where in the Docker file, we had that base image. Here I've defined the stack that it's going to run on and the builder that it's using, and it's got a local version. But the output here, this is what we generated, and we're going to run it now.
Yeah.
So it's running, and now we're going to test it. And I'm using HTTP to go hit that endpoint just to verify, and cool, it's up and running. So my Docker image is running. That image was only a 98 megs image. Yeah, and we're in good shape.
It was fast.
Yeah. So that's what my project does, and that's what's necessary for ARM64 deliverables. And like I was saying, the native image stuff is super fast. Java, by its nature, as long as I have a JVM, I can run on whatever architecture.
Yeah.
The RISC, the ARM64, cool. But if I'm looking for that performance boost, if I'm looking to optimize things, yeah, running natively on ARM64 is the next step. And that's what this is helping to deliver.
Dang, thank you. I just learned a lot. Like, I feel like I got like a better understanding of Buildpacks, better understanding of how Java even works in general. So this was great.
Well, I'm not done. But wait, there's more.
Oh, there's more? Oh, wait,
there is more.
Let's do this.
So with Docker images, I talked about upstream has the Paketo build pack that delivers x86.
Yeah.
I've generated one that works for ARM64. Well, there's a process here that we can use these manifests. So what I actually do is I deliver that DeSean builder. It actually takes two different builders, the x86 version and the ARM64 version, and it slaps them together in a manifest. So if I pull down DeSean builder on ARM64, I'll get the ARM64 version of it. I'll get the DeSean builder ARM.
Yeah.
But if I'm on x86 and I ask for a DeSean builder, I'll actually get the upstream Paketo builder. And I'll show you how I did that. So again, it's just automation.
So you use the GitHub action to help decide between, is this x86 or ARM64? And then I'll give you which one.
Actually, Docker does that. So it's been a part of Docker for a long time, but my GitHub action creates that manifest. So here I can show you that. Maybe I'll pump that up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm creating this builder manifest, and I'm amending my version, this ARM version, and the upstream. Now this upstream one, this is x86, and this one's ARM. But the whole purpose, that manifest, depending on who's asking for it, the manifest will send either the ARM64 or the x86 version.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
That's the magic. So when I'm delivering applications for my team, for everybody, I can actually just say, hey, use this builder, whether you're on Apple Silicon or x86.
Yeah.
And everybody has the same experience, the same builder. The only difference here is there's some bits of the upstream builder. There's some bits that need to be switched out for ARM64, and that's what I've done. And then I glued them together as a Docker manifest, and that's what I deliver out to my Docker Hub so that everybody else can use.
Love it. Like, that's the true definition of like providing a good developer experience. Doesn't matter what operating system you're on, whatever hardware, you're going to get that same experience. Let me see. Perduma said, +1 also use actions for that. Workflows make it super easy.
Yeah. And again, and this is the part of it being open source, the idea that it's really, there's one here to create the stacks, those ARM64 base images that they need. And then there's one to go and it runs that tiny script that's going and it's looking at the upstream deliverables, swapping out where it needs to. And this is free forever. And also, Xavier, that's a good question. Also, I'm working with the team at Paketo to take what I've learned here and move that upstream. It's one of their highest priority items. and I'll continue to work with Daniel Makusa to do that, so that hopefully soon in 2023, when you pull down that Paketo builder from upstream Paketo, if you're on ARM64, you'll get an ARM64 version of that builder.
Wow. So it's going to be part of the regular experience. They're not going to necessarily need to go specifically to your repo to get that.
Right.
I love that.
Hopefully you won't have to make any changes. You can just use the Maven plugin, Maven build image, or the Gradle plugin, and get a working OCI image out of it.
I'm here for
Any
it.
architecture.
This is awesome. I had put up, can you make sure that I have the right link for your repo? Because people are can't get to it. This, if y'all want to check it out, go to github.com/DeSean/Paketo-ARM64.
Yep. That's the one. And I'll flash back a while ago. I also did a build pack, again, cloud native build pack for COBOL.
That's
it's a joke.
throwback.
Yeah, it's a joke, funny. But one of my teammates, Nick, we were in the news during the pandemic. New Jersey was like, "Hey, we want to get your stuff out. The unemployment office, we want to get your checks out, but we don't have enough COBOL developers." And we're like, I wonder if we could do a build pack for COBOL. And we did. And that's the project that helped me learn and understand build packs. Beyond just like the tutorial, there's great tutorials on how to build a build pack here.
Yeah.
But I took it, not just doing their examples, but tried to take it and make it, something that wasn't done for me. So I went and delivered a COBOL build pack.
That's awesome and hilarious.
Yeah, awesome and hilarious, right? It was a way to learn.
That's great. Okay, so I want to link that resource to other people too. I can't type in the chat, but that build pack resource. So you had, what was the tutorial where people learned to create
Buildpacks.io.
Buildpacks.io. That, I think that's going to be great for people if they want to also go ahead and learn more about build packs, or how to use them, or how to build them.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to say is that friends don't let friends deliver Docker files. Because we have things like build packs and others, it's a better way forward. I have scar tissue from updating and maintaining hundreds of Docker files, and I don't want my friends to have to do that. So I definitely think that build packs is something you should look at. And build packs aren't just for Java. We can go to paketo.io. And we can see that there's Java, GraalVM, Go, .NET, Nginx, Node, PHP, Apache, Ruby, Python. There are upstream supported versions of all these build packs.
Okay.
So yeah, this free forever, yes, like this
What
is
is
an
it?
open source project.
Build packs in Node.js. Like, this is definitely like a gap in my knowledge. I don't even know of when I would use one.
Okay, so let's just say, for example, let's just say, for example, I've got a project that's delivering a website running Node, and it's got a bunch of npm dependencies, etc. If I want to deliver that as a automated, CI/CD process, I could write a Docker file that says, "Hey, go and install Node, go and install this version of npm, and then do this npm install for all the things, and then do this Node build or Node run or whatever it is." I could do that. Or I could grab a Node build pack that has some way that says, "Oh, hey," it runs its detect, and it says, "I see that this is a Node project. I see you've got a package.json, and I know how to deal with that." So depending on the order that it is in the builder, if you've got a lot of Node projects, it'll probably be at the top, for speed. But it says, "Hey, I know how to do this. I'm going to go ahead and run it. I'm going to build it, and I'll assign it these versions, and I'll spit you out an OCI image." And you can use that exact same build pack for all of your Node projects. So your pipelines could all look the same. Hey, use Black Girl Bytes builder, boom, and go.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I think even just illustrating it with Node.js made sense to me, because now you have this image. It has the same experience for everyone who uses it. Okay, great. Thank you.
And when you update it, when you update that build pack, or when the upstream updates it, everybody gets that experience. So like today, if I go out and create another one, anybody that's using that latest tag or that tiny tag will get the updates. They don't have to go and update a bunch of projects. Nobody
Yeah.
has to go and update a bunch of Docker files to get those latest updates.
Awesome. Okay, that makes so much sense. It looks like Xavier Manuel really loves this project. They said should do this to be accessible on Visual Studio.
Yes.
People are saying this is amazing. I think so too. My question to you is, so slightly on the less technical side, is have you had any challenges in maintaining this project?
Yeah. So like doing open source, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's not really rewarding, but sometimes it is.
Yeah.
This project, I was kind of doing it again. My core audience was me in Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
I have this little, like I said, I got 92 of these deployed around my house. And that was the thing. I also like running Kubernetes on Raspberry Pi. So I was delivering, I got to deliver Spring workloads on these 512 megabyte devices,
Yeah.
which if Spring, again, the JVM, rarely do you find that you could do that type of delivering Spring Java applications to tiny embedded devices, and they're all over my house. So that was my target audience. However, there's a massive community in these Apple machines. The M1 Silicon is widely popular. And some of my good friends, some of the people that are in the Spring community and the Java community, they're like, hey, I was using your build pack and then it broke. And I was like, whoa, wait. So, hey, yay, somebody's using my project, but whoa, somebody's actually using my project and it's somebody I really, really, really respect. I got to fix this. I
Yeah.
did not have an Apple M1. So somebody posted on Twitter that it was broken. I went out and bought Apple M1 Silicon so I could go and fix it. I bought it on a Friday, I fixed it, and I had it released on a Monday. And then
I
I've been maintaining it ever since.
I love that. I think that goes to show that sometimes, a lot of times, people build a project to fit their specific use case. And then people start using it and they're like, what about this use case that I want to use it for? And it starts to grow and expand even more. So I love that. We have a question in the audience, and I think you kind of went over it a little bit, but I don't think it will hurt to
Yeah.
reiterate, because maybe they came in late. They said, what's the difference between a
Yeah.
build back and a Docker file?
So again, the Docker file, like that Docker file thing that has all the instructions for building a Docker image, which is now just an OCI image these days. That's one approach. A build pack usually has some of those best practices built in, and it makes it so I can use one build pack, and it's an image itself to deliver. So the output from that build pack is still going to be an OCI image. So I can either do the Docker build and have all the instructions, but if some of those instructions change along the way, I've got to change it for all of my projects. But if I'm using a build pack with that detect build process, I'm only changing it once, and then all of my projects are consuming. They're using that build pack to deliver that OCI image.
Love
And I
that.
can stack build packs. So if I've got part of a project is in Node and part of that same project is in Java, I can actually have those detect and build processes for the exact same repository, the exact same artifact. And I can run the Java part and the Node part or the Cobalt part or other. I can stack build packs just like you can in Docker files, but I can stack those as builders with that detect and build phase.
Yes, awesome. It looks like that explanation made sense to No Doubt Bills fan. They said, "Oh, nice, thanks." And then Xavier said, one stop shop, son."
Yes.
Kind of like a
Yes.
tongue twister.
So imagine your organization. You've probably got people that are doing JavaScript, Node, etc. You've probably got people that are doing Java or .NET someplace else, and maybe some Python. Imagine being able to manage that path to production with a builder. Maybe you have certificates, like your internal certificates, orgs, TLS certificates, and you want to make sure that all those projects have them, or make sure that all your projects before they go to production are signed the same way.
Yeah.
Buildpacks can be a part of that process. So you can sign images the exact same way all the way through your supply chain.
Love
You
this.
can
This
deliver
was
your certificates with your packages.
so cool. And then okay, I have a few other questions as I guess we're almost nearing the end. That was fast.
I'm happy to answer questions. I've got more that I want to talk about.
Sure. I mean, also if you want to bring up more stuff too. But my questions are I guess around open source themselves. We talked about the challenges. What has been the rewarding part for you?
The rewarding part, honestly, is the like issues. The
Yeah.
idea that somebody opened an issue,
Yeah.
and here, look, we got an
Someone
issue
said
now.
just found it.
Hey, just saying, I found it. Awesome, like that, right? Like you talk about rewarding part. This is it. Like we're connecting. I have evidence that I'm connecting, and somebody's getting value out of it. That's the rewarding part.
Yeah.
Um, it is Black History Month,
Yeah.
and uh, there was a lot of people before me that came out and delivered things. And I'm 47 years old, and I've never been promoted. I can't change everything.
Me either.
Figuring out where I fit in has been a hard part of this journey.
Mm,
And here today, now, I'm in the best job I've ever had. I
yeah.
love what I do. I've got something that I care about, something that's delivering value to the community, and that helps. So I've kind of found a spot. I get to be on a stage or on here with you, and it feels great that we can be out here together, because it wasn't that long ago that this would have never happened. There was no anybody that looked like me anywhere to be seen. Right? I can name the people that I saw for years. There's a handful of people that look like me that were the only ones that I saw, and I thought, well, this is weird. There's Kelsey, there's Brian, and there's Mario. Like
That was it.
that was kind of it. That was kind of that was the only people. So another part of this job and what we're doing here is we're here, right? And we get to show that that people aren't alone.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So I will like this made me think of a whole bunch of stuff to like tie this into. One, I got another comment saying, "Why is this video black?" Again, I will repeat to people right now in America, in United States of America, it's Black History Month. I often, not like on purpose, but I often highlight white maintainers because white male maintainers because they're the majority, and that's totally fine. Like I love their projects, but I thought, why not take this time to highlight faces that we don't see, like DeSean saying, like we didn't see that many faces like us in this industry, and I think it's really helpful to see those faces because then one, you learn that they exist, and we learn more about how we can promote them and highlight them. But then two, other people who aren't developers or maybe hoping to one day be on a stage or do something like this can get inspiration, be like, oh wait, I can maintain a project, oh wait, I could become a developer advocate. Because like DeSean is saying, I didn't even know that like I could probably speak on a stage until I started seeing Kelsey Hightower or Angie Jones. I'm like, wait a minute, how did they get on the stage? Maybe I
Yep.
could. So it puts that into perspective for you.
Yeah,
um,
it
okay.
does, and it feels like just yesterday. Like it feels like yesterday where there wasn't a whole lot of options, and that's why I love doing what I'm doing, and I'm seeing some of these messages, and I appreciate everybody, uh, the feedback. Alden, yes, the output here from these build images can be used with Docker Compose.
Mhm.
So the output, I can jump back over to our demo. So now I've got this. This is my image demo :001 dash snapshot. That can be the one that gets injected into your Docker Compose and stood up. So output from that build pack is just an OCI image that you can run with Docker Compose.
That was a great question. Also, hi to Juan. That's my coworker. What's up,
Hi.
Grandpa? Someone said, "Is this presentation recorded?" Yes, it is. You can rewatch it on YouTube and LinkedIn. And my next question ties into a little bit about like what we were talking about on being black in tech. Is like there's not that much diversity in open source, right? I actually was like when I even started the show, I was like, I'm gonna highlight so many black maintainers, and then I like struggled to like find them all in time. So I'm curious, like, what are your thoughts on how we can probably increase diversity in open source?
Uh, I I thought about it long and hard,
Mhm.
and I think it has to start at the bottom of the funnel. I think right
Mhm.
now, again, I don't like to like uh, philosophize, like I think, but right now it seems like a lot of folks are being moved around. People are trying to check the box and fill in blanks. Oh yeah, we've got so many people that look this way and so many people that act this way. We've got them here, and a lot of people are kind of getting shuffled around. But right, like I feel you. It is. It's the same. We have to start from the bottom of the funnel. Like we have to start, yeah, in the high schools. We got to get people excited about it. The reason I have 92 Raspberry Pis is because when I went before the pandemic, I was going out to schools and volunteering, and I would give them away.
Love
I'd
that.
give away the $5 or $10 computers, and in the classrooms just to get people excited about it.
I
So
love that.
that's my idea. That's what I think. I think we have to start as early as possible in letting people know that there is a path, right? It's a great field. It's a great opportunity, and if you love it like I do, it's really easy to do. I'll also say that it could change. Uh, I realize that it could change any day. So one of my daily rituals is kind of to wake up and say, "Hey, this is awesome. Today
Yeah.
I get to go and be on stream with Black Girl Bites," and I'm grateful for that. And I'm thankful, and I do that literally every day, and with the idea that hey, it could change. I know it could change.
Yeah.
That's
No,
okay.
that's
Like
great.
let's enjoy it while we can.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. One, shout out to you for giving Raspberry Pis to other students. Like I didn't even consider that. That's like a really great thing to do. And then two, I'm grateful to be on a stream with you and learn from you. I'm grateful to be in a position where I can learn from people about how they're approaching code. Kind of like what you said earlier about like not being promoted and stuff like that. I have been in jobs in the past that didn't really recognize like my intelligence, I guess. Like I was kind of like, oh, Roselle's dumb, like put her to the side. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity to like, if I say like, oh, I don't know what a build pack is, like you're like, oh, here's how it works, without like the judgment. Um, and then I agree that bottom of the funnel because I didn't even know about coding or anything technical in high school. Like I really didn't think of that as an option for myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna go here. It's just some of the things. Uh,
Oh yeah.
this right here. It says lift as we climb.
Yeah.
Lift as we climb. That's the thing. So yeah, if you're watching, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, right? Lift as we climb. Like we got to lift people up.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's like, I mean, I love that you have that as kind of a model for yourself in your Twitter.
Yes.
um, my next question is, how could people, well, do you want people to contribute to your project? Is this a project that you're like accepting contributions? And if so, how can they?
Yeah. So for this one, yeah, contribute, use it. That's a great way of contributing to open source is using it.
Yeah.
Do that. Like there's not really uh, step 1, 2, 3 on how to get into open source.
Yeah.
Use it as an easy way of giving feedback by adding an issue and showing somebody, hey, I'm using it. And I ran into this, whether it's good or bad, even a thank you goes a long way for helping that contributor, that maintainer continue to move forward. So that's my number one thing is use open source.
Yes.
That's a great way to go forward.
Yeah, and an underrated way to contribute. Like people are always talking about you got to write code to it and stuff like that, but using it and telling people like, "Hey, here's a bug," or "Hey, I really love this experience," can help the open source maintainer make it better. All right.
Because mine is kind of a mod. Yeah, I'll point you to the upstream Paketo.
Yeah.
Like if Java's not your thing, maybe you're a Go developer or .NET developer, go try out what Paketo is delivering. And there's tons of options. It's not just, hey, we just build it. There's lots of plugins. And because of the way that Buildpacks are set up, you have a lot of really interesting ways that you can deliver code.
Oh, okay. Cool. I did not even know that. Do you have any advice for folks who want to gain more contributors or sponsors or yeah.
Um, I'd say, yeah, no, I don't, because I don't really have like anything that's tried and true for how we do it.
Yeah.
Although I am a part of the Spring ecosystem, I work at VMware. Uh, what they have done is kind of, yeah, keep it open,
Mm-hmm.
share, yeah, and go out and talk about it and find out. I almost liken it to like doing a startup. I'm the proud founder of dozens of failed startups, so I've learned a little bit along the way. But you got to find your product market fit, and I think just like a startup, you have to do the same thing for like your open source project. You got to find out where it fits in, and maybe it is just handling 500 people. Maybe there's that community of 500, but they maybe really need it, and maybe those 500 are delivering the next great thing. So yeah, finding your community is okay. It doesn't have to be a 10,000 star repository in order to be a great repository for the community.
Honestly, that's a good point. It does not need to have like a million stars to still be making a impact. Xavier said that I think it looks like he posted about your project on LinkedIn.
Um,
And then Juan Pa said, I don't know if you felt this way, but sometimes I felt I was missing something to contribute to open source, not being technical enough, not having XYZ, etc. Seeing people like you make the thing always helps me to feel more confident.
I think I know that feeling where a lot of times I was using something written in Python or written in PHP, and I was using it and I was like, oh, like it doesn't seem like it's working. What do I do next? Like, can I help? I really like this project. Can I help?
Yeah.
Even though that's not my expertise. And I'll say the advice that I'm passing on to you is use it, share, like comment, do the issues, give that feedback, even updates to documentation can go a long way to help that project. So you don't have to feel that nervousness. We're all nervous. I'm still nervous.
Yeah, coding can be scary
Yeah.
sometimes. Tamara said at Black Boys Code this week, we're doing a Sphero autonomous challenge in our hackathon. Hopefully we can do Raspberry Pis eventually. That sounds awesome.
That does sound awesome. I would love to hear more about that. I want to see videos of that.
Right, me too. All
Yeah.
right, so we're nearing the end. I kind of like inserted some of the audience questions while we chatted, so we don't need to
Yeah.
do that part. But I do have some non-technical questions for you if you're ready, because then we'll have a new guest
Yeah.
come on. I would love to chat with you forever. But first question is, what was the first programming language that you ever learned?
The first one was on a TRS-80.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever the go-to line basic. That was the first time I remember actually like finishing a program and having it done. Where it got really interesting was in high school. We had Apple IIs, and I remember taking the little programming class. But the really cool delivery stuff was with the TRS or is it TRS-80? No, that's the Tandy. The little scientific calculator. I was making games on the scientific calculator back when you had to like plug them in together. And me and my buddy Brooke, we made games in physics class. And then later in the year, somebody on the other side of the state showed me this game that I wrote on their calculator. So before Game Boys and all that kind of stuff existed,
That's
on their
crazy.
calculator, they had a game that I wrote with my buddy Brooke in physics class back in the early 90s.
That's
That was really when
crazy.
things I was like, oh, this is really fun. I like this.
You're like somebody else's you. No, that's cool.
Yeah.
I usually hear people saying like, "Oh, like I wrote code on a calculator," but I never heard of someone saying like, "Oh, someone else was using it."
Yeah. And for it to get around, in the 90s, for it to get around the state, that means somebody had to plug it into a calculator, into another calculator. And it ended up, I was born and raised in North Dakota. It ended up on the other side of the state in
That's
Bismarck.
wild.
Yeah.
You're a legend. Okay. If money wasn't an issue, how would you ideally spend your time?
I'd be doing this exact same thing. I'm a geek. All the things that I said at the beginning, I volunteer, playing with my kids. I like to go outside and do, outside stuff. But I also like the Raspberry Pi geeking around stuff. So yeah, it'd be very similar to what I'm doing now.
I'm glad you're doing what you love. I love that. Okay. And okay. So we did talk about an open source project that you made, but if you had more time, what's a dream open source project that you would love to create?
I still love to contribute to Spring. So the
Oh,
Spring ecosystem. So it's
yeah.
massive. Anywhere I can, I'm opening issues and updating documentation and committing there. So yeah, look, there will be a Raspberry Pi Spring Boot starter coming around the corner real soon. So you can
Okay.
deliver, yeah, Spring Boot level applications on Raspberry Pis easier.
Oh, follow him on GitHub, y'all, because I'm
Yeah.
excited. If you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Um,
That's hard, right?
yeah, bananas. I think I
Bananas.
could safely say one food for the rest of my life, bananas. Uh, and I've done some running. I did 5 marathons in 5 days in 5 different states back in 2014. The first day I was like, oh, I'm gonna eat spaghetti and that's gonna give me all the energy I need. And it messed up my stomach. So for the
Oh,
rest of them, all I did was, buy like $3 of bananas and that's all that I ate. And that's all I needed for the rest of the 5 days was
what?
just bananas and water. And it
That's
was good. Yeah. And I'd never done anything like that before, but bananas kind of got me through it. So
gotcha.
that's my
So
answer.
shout out to bananas.
Final answer.
Wait, have you ever did the Boston Marathon?
I've never qualified for the Boston. I'm actually, I know you can't tell, but I'm, 6'3", almost 6'4",
Oh,
260 pounds. So yeah, I'm not a little person. I can't quite get that fast yet. Maybe,
gotcha.
maybe later. Maybe later.
Okay, that's because that's the only marathon I know because I live in Boston. Okay, for the word GIF, how do you pronounce it? Hard G or soft G?
That's a topic of, it's GIF.
GIF, you say?
It's GIF.
You would hate me then. Like I say GIF all the
GIF is JPEG interchange format. Less popular. But if you say GIF, I think JIF, that's the JPEG interchange format, and you're confusing me.
time. Okay, last question. What is your favorite Beyonce song? If you have
Um,
it.
I don't really have a favorite one.
On it?
Yeah. Uh, yeah, it's probably Single Ladies.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
All right. This was really great. I think a lot of people, so I think you can see the comments, but I'll just highlight them. People are saying, thanks for sharing your experience. One pod gave us a little banana.
I want
People
to
said, oh, go ahead.
shout to Kendrick. Kendrick says, sorry late, but how about for older professional transition into coding? I, uh,
Oh, thank you.
I, I'm passionate about this topic, and I think it is never too late. This is something, as a country, even with all the layoffs and stuff that we hear in the news in tech, we have more demand. There's more need for tech than we can fill.
Yeah.
So even though people are getting laid off, and I'm sorry for that, I can also see that we have needs to be filled. And I've got a lot of great examples just in my own life of people that have made that transition in their 30s, 40s, and even 50s into tech and are happy.
Yeah.
So it's never too late. Actually, I have a cousin who's here in Kansas City doing the same thing right now, coming out of the military, haven't had an experience already, but just willing to take that jumping into a kind of a coding school, a short-term 6-month boot camp, if you will, school. But before she's even done with school, she's finding that she's getting jobs and she has these
Wow.
opportunities because there's that much demand.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it, and I make myself open. My DMs are open. DeSean. I'm DeSean on LinkedIn, on GitHub. You can find me in all the places with just DeSean, including DeSean.com. Get a hold of me if you're interested or you want some help. I have lots of advice and lots of experience helping people go down that path.
That's awesome that you got your first name as a domain.
Yeah, yeah. It's like 1995. So
Wow.
yeah, I've been doing this for a while.
That's awesome. All right. And I thank you for noticing that question. I missed it. And I agree. Like definitely check out code and boot camps. There's a lot of free resources to learning online as well, like free code camp. Um, yeah, you're not too old. Got this. All right. Well, we're gonna thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this was a fun conversation. I think everyone enjoyed it. Um, And I'll take a quick break after you leave. Y'all, like, audience, don't leave forever because we'll have another guest on. But thank you so much, DeSean. Like, this was really valuable for me, and I hope it was valuable for you as
It
well.
was. This is
Awesome.
great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure what I want to do. Maybe I'll press end. I was gonna put up a "be right back" sign, but I think I'll press end broadcast, and then I'll hop back on.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, y'all. I'll be back in a few.